So, good morning, everyone. Welcome along to today's You Don't Know What You Don't Know session. Today we don't have Roland with us. He's taking a little bit of time, bit of leave off. But we are very, very lucky to have our CEO, founder, and Chief Design Architect, Mr. Nick Beaujard, on the phone. And we're going to continue a bit more about talking and discussing metadata, because it's an amazing tool that we can use to improve not only capturing data but also our reporting and so forth. So welcome, and Nick, and good morning.
Thanks, Trevor. Good morning. How are you?
I'm very, very good here in sunny
Excellent.
Queensland today.
If it's even sunny Sydney, it's horrible yesterday. It's absolutely gorgeous today.
Excellent, excellent. So as I said before, we're going to go into a bit of metadata, and Nick, we're going to sort of like cover off, and you're going to talk about metadata in terms of how we can use it, but also not only the ways that we can capture our metadata and get the information into our systems really easy, and then we're going to go into about how we can use that metadata in our reports, lists, and so forth like that. So fire away. Why don't we just get going with it? And guys, if there's any questions you've got, put them up in the conversation screen. I'll be keeping an eye on those, and I'll ask Nick as we're going through. If you're feeling like he's a bit too technical on something and you need something interpreted, please ask away. So let's begin.
Oh, thanks, Trevor. Thank you. I'm sitting in a meeting room and somebody just walked up and said, "Have you booked this room?" Yes, I booked it till 2 o'clock this afternoon. Okay, so bear with me 1 second. And they've just apologised. All right, cool, excellent. Right, let's get going. So, last week we had a bit of a chat about metadata, but let me talk about it. You know, we in this industry, and I've been in the IT industry about 25 years, continually use stupid terms to confuse people. So let me do a bit of history and try and make things a bit simple if I can. So let me give you some background. So computer filing systems for filing documents were designed in the 1960s, and they were designed to emulate paper files, you know, cabinets, folders, files, really so that when you went to look things, and when you look at file systems today, they really look and are analogous to the paper stuff you used to have. You have documents live within folders will live within, you know, cabinets or drives or those sorts of things, and it really was designed that way, yeah, in kind of a way to make it easy for people who'd only been used to paper filing systems. And at the same time, early databases were set up to be just like paper card file systems. Right, so Trevor, you've got to remember, right, going in and storing things on card files, and then seeing computer programs that did exactly the same stuff.
I'm old, but I don't know if I ever saw card files, Nick.
Yeah. Tristan's popping in. He's calling that a low blow. It certainly is. Anyway, so this is how the world was, but you know, databases then evolved. Right? So today, if I want to talk to a database, when you talk to something like Siri, you're talking to a database. When you go and look up the latest odds on the GGs, you're talking to a database. These things are massive, they're highly scalable, they can be really complex, and they work really, really well. But what's happened to document management? What has document management done? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the next version of document management, but let me give you some concepts of what I mean. Yeah, when we talk about documents, I'm sure everybody on the call's really familiar with using folders and files. Trevor, I assume you are as well.
Yes, and all of our subscribers and everybody love folders and files, and the thing that we've done with
They do, and you know, I've been arguing with Trevor, to be honest with you, probably for the last 6 years, about why we should get rid of folders, because I think I think in a way they're a little bit legacy, which is a way of saying they're probably not the right thing to do. So I'm going to do pick apart a little demonstration to show you why this is cool. So let me see if I can share my screen, and you never know, live demos are always fun, but let's see if we can make this happen. Okay, so Trevor, why don't you tell me when you can see my screen? Okay. Mine says connecting.
It says it's loading right now, so it's coming up in a second. But while that's coming up, Nick, so the thing is that folders have evolved because Explorer built folders to match the old filing cabinet effectively as what it was done, and even made it look and gave it an icon that looks like a filing cabinet. So that's what we're used to.
Yep.
And for all of us on the call, it is a different way to go. But as I've been starting to put metadata into my documents and so forth like that, I'm starting to see the light, if you want to put it.
Okay. So you can probably see my screen now. Let me explain what metadata means. Metadata means data on top of data. So if your document's the data, metadata describes it. So let's go have a look. And what I'm going to do, you can probably see on my screen, here's a little SharePoint site I created this morning. There's no special software in here. Everything you see here, I'm going to do just with basic SharePoint in Office 365 because I want to explain some things. And on the right, I have a thing called a document library. And that's a library where I can put documents. And I'm just going to go in and click on that. And what you'll see is what's called the new view for document libraries. So over time, all of your document libraries are going to start looking like this. And there's some cool things we can do with it, but I'm going to show you the really cool things. So you see, there's actually some metadata here. The name of the document, the date it was modified, and who modified it is all metadata. So if I was to go and create a new document in here, I'm not going to create a document. I'm just going to create I'm not going to create a folder. I'm just going to create a document. It's going to open it up in Word Online for me. Here it is. There it is. I'm going to say hello, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a name. So let me give it a name. I'll call it Nick's document. I'm going to replace the file that was there. I'm going to hit save. And now I have a document. So let me go back to my site and we'll go have a look at it. All right, back into document. You see I've actually got two because I created a new one. But you see there's some metadata. They were modified a few seconds ago by me. Makes sense so far? Trevor?
Sorry, yes, I'm trying to click and unmute and talk at the same time, you know.
All right, now, if you see this is kind of like, if you think of it, there's columns and rows. This is a bit like a spreadsheet, right? We're looking at data, and metadata is just like that. It's just like bits of data. So I'm going to add some data to this. And I can either do that by hitting the little plus button here, or I can go up to the cog at the top. I can go to library settings, and I can do it the complex way. So being an IT pro, I always do it the complex way. Down here, I've got these things called columns. So this is all the metadata it has right now. It has the title, the date it was created, date it was modified, who created it, who modified it, and who's it checked out to. I'm going to add a column. So I'm going to choose that, and I'm going to choose a number, and I'm going to pretend I'm an accountant, so I'm going to put in just income as a number. Right? And I'm just going to hit OK. Right, done. So if I now go back to my documents list, what you'll see now is I have my document, and over on the right I have this column that says income. You see that? Trevor's trying to unmute again in a second. You
yes,
that?
I am. Yes.
I'm going to keep bouncing off you, Trevor. So you keep your mic unmuted. Stop drinking your coffee.
Oh, okay.
Stay unmuted. Right now, yes, carry on.
So just what you did then, right? So you went library. Columns. You went a bit quick for me. I don't know if anybody else saw what you did to create that column, but when we look into our document library, we don't have the ability to see that column immediately. So if you're going, oh yes we do, it does come up straight away, doesn't it? So you went cog library settings. Okay, so we're used to clicking on the document to get library settings, but
yeah, no, use the cog. It's the best way to do everything. So here I am. Now what I want to do is I want to use that data. So there's a couple of ways I can do that. I can choose this row here, and I can actually go and now this is the new version of this, so this will be fun. I'm not sure how I did that. Let me show you. I'm not going to do that at the moment. Let me show you how I do that in the document. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this document in Word. So let me hit launch application, and this is going to open Microsoft Word. I'll just let that appear, give it a second, and I'll drag it over to you. I'm using two screens today. So, right, so here is my document. You see that in Word?
Yep.
Right, I'm going to hit edit, which allows me to edit it, and I can put, normal document stuff. But watch this. I'm going to say my income was, and then I'm going to do this. I'm going to get insert. I'm going to choose a quick part. I'm going to choose a document property. And you see down here, I have income. You see that?
Yep.
Right. That's actually picked it up from SharePoint. right? That's not a normal thing that's in there. So if I put in income, it puts in a field, and I'm going to say my income was, let's say, 12,000. When I hit save, which is just going to save, and you see it uploads it to SharePoint. When I go back to my test here, I'm just going to hit refresh, because it won't refresh automatically. You'll see that that value is now there.
Wow.
See that?
You said you were going to show me something a bit different today.
Yeah, so that's kind of...
My mind's racing a bit now.
Yeah, I thought it might be. So, what we have is we have the ability to do that. I can then just, in this view here, filter it to say I want to see smallest to largest income. I want to filter by income. I want to group by income. So that will group everything that has an income of 12,000, etc., etc. So I have all those abilities. But the other thing I have is I have the ability to create views, right? So at the moment I'm looking at just the view that says all documents up here. But I can create other views. So I'm going to do a new view here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, let me go and find it, columns, views. I'm going to create a view. I'll create a standard view. I'm going to say documents with income. You see that?
Yep.
Right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down and I can choose which of our columns I put here. Now there's a bunch of columns, but there's the income column there. I've got type, an icon linked to the document. I've got the name. I've got modified by. I can have all sorts of stuff in here. These are all the metadata, and I can add whatever I want using this thing I showed before. Then I can do sorting, which I'm not going to do. Then I can say show only the items where income, let me find it, income, right, is greater than 0. Make sense?
Yep.
Right, and I'm going to say that's good. I've got lots of options here, guys. For example, I can actually get rid of all the folders. So I can say here, in this view, I'm going to see all documents that have an income, whether or not they're in a folder.
So the discussion we had before where we've got to go and possibly get our documents out of folders isn't relevant.
We just create views. What I can also do is I can show totals. So I can do the total of income, or the average of income, or the maximum, or the minimum. So think about it like this: when you're creating those final reports for your clients, you could say the income, the expenditure, the assets, the liabilities, the tax to pay or tax refunded as a number, and then you can build reports about your entire practice that you could then use for marketing. For example, you could go around and say, you know, our firm got $25 million worth of refunds from the ATO last year. Wouldn't you like to work with us?
Or our total gross income for all of our clients, in other words, our contribution to them is this, or the total tax paid by our clients is this, or But
exactly.
when is it too much? You know, like, because you're looking at those sort of things and you're having to create the fields in your documents and so forth.
Yep.
When does it get too much? When can we extract that information out of our other databases to fall into a document? So
that's a really interesting question. I'm going to cover that off next week, because next week we're going to talk about how we use Template Manager. So let me just finish off where I'm going here, and then I'll show you what we'll do next week. So anyway, so here is my view. Obviously now it's only showing one document, right? You see that?
Yeah.
Right, now watch this. I'm going to go back to all documents. There it is. I'm going to create a folder, which is stupid folder. So Bobby's asking, can this be done with Excel documents? Bobby, it absolutely can. You can do this with Excel, Word, in fact, anything on the list we have here, which is basically any Office document. Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, but anything you upload can also have metadata with it.
Can you go back to an old document that's been created and highlight a field and say that is a metadata field?
You absolutely can. In fact, I'll show you how to do that in 1 second. Let me get to the end of this one. I'm going to go into my stupid folder.
Yeah.
I'm going to create a new, I'll just do a Word document for now, just because it's the test I've decided to do today, right? Second Word document. Right, file. I'll just save as, rename, we'll call it my doc. Okay, right, file. Right, that's all good. I can go back now. It's Word Online, so it automatically saves it. So let me go back to my folder and I'll find my document in there. Now what I'm going to do is go into it again, and I'm going to open it in Word, because to do those fields I need real Word to do it. So let me pop it into Word. Okay. And Word will open, give it a little second. And it's just on that old document. I'll just let it open the new one, which will appear here. I'll edit it, and there's second Word document, and I'll say my income was, and then I'm going to insert quick part, document property, income, and I'm going to go here and I'm going to put 250,000. Right, save. Right. Back to my, oh no, I've just clicked the wrong thing. Got to get rid of all of that. Let me go back to here, metadata test, here we go. Right, so there's my document. If I refresh it, we'll see the number. Okay, 250,000. Then if I go back to documents, obviously you can't see my doc, right?
No.
But if I go to my view, where I said get rid of folders, I see both of them there. Right. Now, next thing I want to do is you want to be able to edit existing documents. So here's what you do. Right? I'm going to create a view. Right? And I'll scroll down, right, to views, and I'm going to create a view. And I'm going to call this view I'm going to call it a metadata edit view. So I'm going to click on data sheet. Here we go. Here it comes. And I'm going to call it Metadata Editor. Oh, I feel like I'm running an application here. Let me scroll down. That's got all the things I want. I don't want anything more. I want to do it where, okay, I'll actually leave all the columns so I get everything in there. And I'll go to folders and I'm going to get rid of them. Now you could do this in folders if you wanted to, if you had lots. I'm going to click OK. And then what I have is I have the metadata editor, which looks like Excel. So I could go into this income in here and I could say, no, that's actually, or let me change that to a number, 25,000. Right, just like that.
And you could put in the other one, next document, you could put in a field.
Yep.
But where will it, oh, that'll just put it into the metadata, even if it's not in the document. It will just.
Correct. Now what it's going to tell me here is I can't edit this because I've actually got that document open for edit in Word at the moment.
Right.
Right, so I'm just going to close down my two documents I've got in Word. Let me just get rid of those. That should be good. So now I should be able to make that 25,000, tab to the next thing. It will automatically go and attempt to save it, or not because it's all confused. Never mind. I'm not going to play with that and faff around. But effectively, if I didn't have that document open, not only would it change that number in the metadata, Trev, but it would actually change that number in the document as well.
Can you do it that you can see the folder it's in? Now, what I'm thinking about here is if I'm wanting to go and edit, I've already put a whole heap of metadata and a whole heap of documents in there, and we put them in the 2015 folder, for example.
Yes.
So therefore, I want to see the folder so that I can just add it to that metadata field as I'm working on it. So you're going to say you're going to show the folder, eh?
Yeah, so we'll actually change our view, right, where we actually say instead of just doing that, show items inside folders. Okay. Right. And then this view will open again. And if everything works correctly, the folder will be there. I can navigate into the folder using this view, if it lets me. Right. And then that will open it, except I can't at the moment. I can even rename the folder in there. This is quite a cracking thing to use. But yes, we should be able to click into the folder. It's thinking about it. I can see it doing it in the background. And that will actually open the folder using that view, and you can go edit things. Mine's running a bit slow. No idea why. Make sense?
That's huge. That's very exciting, because now we can start to add information. So, and continue, and we can go and sort of our old data up, because one thing I was a bit worried about was we've got all these clients, we've put information into folders now, and then as we start to expand and use metadata, we either draw a line in the sand, or if you feel like it and you really need that information for other things, you can then start to go back through your old documents and really easily apply that metadata, because that does take a while to do, doesn't it, Ben? Ben's just been going through all of my documents over the last day.
Cool. So it gets better.
Right.
Right. So if I take you to to our document center, I want to show you something else because we're almost at the end here. So I just want to show you the little snifter. Now, I'm sure most people on the call are familiar with One Practice Template Manager.
Yes.
Right. So I'm just going to load up One Practice Template Manager here, and here's where things get really interesting. You'll notice in the field builder, you can build fields, right? So you can pick fields, alternate fields, default values, and actually build fields that get put into the document as it's being built and saved.
Yep.
Remember that? So let's do a custom prompt field where we're going to say, I'm going to look for a number, and we're going to prompt the user for income, for example. Right, you see that field there?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I can do, if I was to go back to my metadata test, right, I could grab the document. So I'm editing templates now. I'm not going to do this immediately, but if I open the document, I'll edit it in Word. I'll launch the application, let it run, click, 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 click. Here it comes. Right. Haha, Word starting. Loading all my add-ins because I have all sorts of add-ins in Word on my system. So this will load up. What this allows me to do is where I start putting in the field, so I'm going to insert, the field will be document property income. Instead of putting a number in there, I'm going to put field in there. Right? So that means when you run Template Manager to build a document and it prompts you for something or pulls something out of the database, right? Instead of it just putting it into the document as text, it will put it inside the metadata field, and then that will appear as metadata back in SharePoint.
Wow. Cool. So how are we going to do this? So next week we're going to go into that a bit more, get everybody to run and have a bit, go and create one of their templates with some fields, start planning some fields that they want in their metadata. As we talked about last week, it's important that you plan your metadata you want, otherwise you're going to end up with just too much that's just irrelevant.
But to be honest with you, Trevor, we can create views and get rid of that. So it's worthwhile thinking about, so you think about two things. You think about your metadata, what fields you actually want, then you think about your views, how you actually want to work with that, and then you try and make it simpler, because you will start off making it too complex.
Yeah, you try and simplify it down.
Sure.
So in my little accounting firm, things that I've put in and started is 2016, and I've started to think about the matter, what it's about, and then I'm wanting the set. So what type of document set is it? So that what type of document is it at the end of the day? Is it a final? Is it a work paper? And all of those sort of things. So then I can grab just my original documents for a particular client for a particular year easily. But now what we're doing is we're thinking about our data that we've got in there. Now, if I sat there and said, okay, well, we've got a database and we've got loads of information in that database, which we've got tax and so forth like that. If I was to grab a document and that document included that database in there, had the information in it, could I then grab those documents and somehow apply those fields? And again, I could go through each one of my clients and say, well, that's taxable income. And I would just pick that up directly out of my database.
Yeah, good question. Have to play with the specific example. I think the way it's working for us at the moment is if you start using things like Template Manager, which databases and document management are different. So if you use Template Manager or Mail Manager, which actually talks to the database, we can use the data there. And I just demonstrated how we do that. To actually then pull stuff out of your database, you're going to have to wait till 4.5, version 4.5 of One Practice, and then we'll show you some pretty magical things we can do there.
Okay, cool. All right. That's why we've got you on the call, because you're starting to see it on the we're starting to see into the future. So we're winding up. It's 24 minutes past. We usually finish at 25 past. Is there any other questions that anybody had before whilst we've got Nick on the call, about metadata and how you think you might be able to use it, or is there something you didn't understand or see, and you want more insight on? If you don't want to ask it today, flick me an email or Nick an email. Probably send me an email, and I'll organise a time to jump on a call with you and see if we can get that sorted so that you can start to use this information in your business and gather information.
I will say as well, Trevor, all of these videos are on YouTube, so make sure you go and find the HubOne YouTube channel, find our videos, like the video, it really helps us, and also subscribe, and you'll be notified when there's a new one of these if you can't make it, or etc. Jacinta said she wants to start using metadata on her Scam Document Manager. Jacinta, we are testing the Scam Document Manager Metadata Edition, so next week I'll give you a sneak peek into that one and show you how that works. Okay, cool. So do make sure you go take a look at our YouTube channel. That always helps as well. And thanks, Trev. It's been fun. I haven't done one of these before. It's a bit of a laugh.
No, they're great fun. And thanks again, Nick, for coming along and filling in for Rolly. Nick's going to be on for the next couple of weeks while Roland's having a bit of a break. So, let's get right into this metadata and delve into Nick's brain, which is a bit scary, I suppose, sometimes. But that's where we can start to really utilize this into our businesses and on SharePoint. So next week's how we're going to use it and how we get more into reports. See you then, guys. Thanks everybody for joining, and don't forget to share this around and get everybody else on the call from your in your office onto the call.
Thanks, guys. See ya.